Right, Ediz, for the purpose of the camera, can you just introduce yourself, please?
My name is Ediz candidate number 1280, centre number 14103.
Okay, Ediz. Having just watched the rugby, I asked you to pick out a player. What position did you choose?
The number 8.
Number 8, that was right.
I believe his name is Dan.
Yep. And you looked at his strengths and weaknesses of his game. You've identified those, hopefully, for us. And then for one of the weaknesses, you've chosen to develop an action plan to go about improving it. Are you happy to do that?
Yes.
Off you go.
Okay, so with the number 8, I believe he was quite he liked to keep the pace of the game up, and he took quite a few quick tap penalties. I believe this was quite a good tactic of his because he actually managed to score one of them, get a try from one of them. Also, the tactics of the team was based around him and around support runners, and so these support runners could be used as either a decoy to distract defenders away from Dan, or he could be one of those support runners and be used as an offload or second phase man. I also think that another good tactic that involved Dan was in the defensive lineouts, because the lineouts were uncontested. They didn't lift any of their players, and so this gave Dan and his whole pack the chance to be able to just go straight in for the maul and try and outmaul the other team. But I think that sometimes Dan's need to keep up the pace of the game with his quick penalties let him down, because I think sometimes he should have stopped for a moment, and he should have let especially in the first half of the game, where they were winning, I think it was 12-0, Dan should have let the kicker kick a penalty and put it to 15-0, which would have made it harder for the opposition to come back. Whereas he took the quick penalty and he actually ended up knocking it on, so that was a bad tactic of his. Also, as the captain, he should know the limits of his players, and from one of their penalties they decided to try and kick from touch, but their kicker wasn't able to, and he missed the kick, and as the captain, Dan should have stepped in and said, no, this is for the kicker can't make this, we should try and do a penalty move or recycle the ball somehow. I also feel like in his positioning in the scrum, he didn't actually break out of the scrum quick enough, and so he wasn't able to. He was slow to peel and to cover his blindside backs, and consequently he conceded a try. However, as a number 8, he is very skillful in the fact that he's able to run. When he runs, he gets his back down and he gets his back quite flat, and he runs low and hard at the defenders. This is quite good because it makes him able to almost effectively bounce players off of him and knock the defenders back before and almost not lose momentum sometimes and just power straight through them. I also feel like in the scrum, again, his back positioning is great. He has quite a flat back as well, which gives him what we like to call a tempo of power, or which basically allows him to drive hard through the scrum and act as a good anchor at number 8. In his tackles, his diving tackles were particularly effective, because I believe that when he went into tackle someone, he'd always come slightly off his feet. This could leave him vulnerable to being stepped. However, I didn't see him being stepped once, and I felt like his tackles were very strong and hard tackles. Unfortunately, his handling and passing of the ball was sometimes scruffy, and sometimes, maybe because of the height of the game, how important it was, cup final, when he had to offload off of his weaker hand, he reverted back to his dominant response and reverted to a one-hand, stronger hand pass, which sometimes didn't come off for him. When he was not in the ruck and he went out into the backs lines, sometimes, he once gave away a penalty This shows almost a lack of awareness and lack of positioning when he's not in his natural, like when he's out of his comfort zone a little bit. And lastly, in his when he was scrumming, his opposition number 8 got away from him a few times, and also in open play, his opposition number 8 got away from him a few times. This also ended up in the try conceded. His fitness, I believe the number 8 had a very good reaction time, so he was able to adjust and react easily to situations, very swiftly, and this allowed him to be quite dominant on the field. He's a very strong, very fast player, especially in his legs, because his bicep femoris and rectus femoris are very strong, and also his gastrocnemius was very strong, which helped him run faster, but it also helped his scrumming power. I think that he also, fitness-wise, he has quite a large frame and large, broad anterior and posterior deltoid, which allowed him, basically allowed him to tackle very well, and his tackling was top class. However, I believe that he does need to maybe become a bit more lean, lose a little bit of weight, because if he did become more lean, his work rate would increase, and also naturally if he went out on long runs to cut down the weight, also he'd improve his aerobic capacity, which would also allow him to be more dominant on the field, allow him to get around the field more. And it also improve his effects of his impact on the game and his work rate. I feel like he wasn't very flexible in the tackles when he was trying to step players. Sometimes he would lose balance, or he would not quite be able to get around the player, or sometimes in the tackle he would lose balance as well. I also feel like if he had a stronger upper body, especially his tricep and bicep brachii, and his pectoralis major and minor, it would allow him to have increased use of the handoff in rugby, which is quite an effective skill because it stops players from being able to tackle you sometimes. So my my action plan would be, I want to improve his handling and his pass, mostly his passing, especially with his weaker hand, because I want to get rid of those poor passes which led to knock-ons. And I feel like I'd give him 2 sessions a week for 4 weeks, and each session, so the weeks 1 to 3, so the first 6 sessions, the session would be 30 minutes long, and in the last week, session 7 and 8, so week 4, they'd be an hour long, so I'd increase the intensity. So first of all, I'd address the fit principles of training. So his frequency would be twice a week, so that it's not too often so that the performer lost interest or become unfocused, but enough so that he didn't almost effectively forget what he learned between sessions. I think the intensity will start quite slow, as I said, 30 minutes, not too long a session, and the intensity of it won't be as intense. And it would increase, especially in the last 2 sessions, which were an hour long. I'd make them intense enough to overload to allow adaptation and improvement. However, I wouldn't make them so intense because I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to allow a decrease in training quality, and I also wouldn't want burnout, or I wouldn't want overuse injuries. So time, I would give him short sessions to begin with, so the performer stays focused, and then once he's developed and almost grooved the skill, I'd put him into slightly longer sessions. And the type, I'd vary different types of passing drills, just so he doesn't become bored, and to maintain motivation. And also, if you have too many similar drills, sometimes it can cause overuse injuries. So I'd want to vary the drills a little bit more to hopefully reduce the chances of obvious injuries. So in my first session, I would remove all the external variables, so like I wouldn't have any other players with him other than me and him. This would help him concentrate. This would help his concentration. It would stop him from looking other places. And I'd use verbal and visual guidance and give him by giving him extrinsic feedback to allow him to develop his technique of the pass. And I'd use mechanical guidance at times, manual guidance at times to help him with, for example, his arm positioning, his leg positioning, or things like that. So with my coaching points for my skill, so in the first session, my coaching points for my skill would be, so for the spiral pass, especially off his weaker hand, would be to keep his fingers spread when holding the ball, because it will allow maximum control and direction of the pass. And also when he's holding the ball anyway, like running with it, it will give him control over the ball. When he's passing off his stronger hand, so when he's passing leftwards, off of his right hand, he needs to have his right hand just behind the equator, which is like the middle of the ball, and so on the bottom half, and his left hand just above the equator, or just above, and same with the right hand, just on or just below, to allow on either side of the ball, to allow the right hand to give him the power and the spin he needs on the spiral pass. So I said right hand just behind the equator, just below the equator, or on it and just below, and the left hand just above, and then the power and the spin all comes from the right hand. The stability and the accuracy tends to come from the left hand. When he's running with the ball, I'd advise him to plant the opposite leg of the direction of the pass. So for example, he's passing left, he wants his right leg just ahead of him. I'd ask him to plant that leg just in front, which will allow for maximum power of the pass. And I'd advise him to use his shoulders or his anterior and posterior deltoids to push through the ball, not across the ball, through the ball, towards the target to maintain the accuracy that he needs. And I'd advise him to start his pass by putting his arms and shoulders all back to almost in effect charge up the pass, and then when executing the pass, I would like him to push through the ball and flick mainly his right wrist to allow the spin, but this should happen quite naturally when he passes, and I'd advise him to finish with straight arms across his body, and when he finishes his pass, he should be able to focus down his arm, look down his arm, and he should see in the gap between his hands where the ball would have gone. But yeah, so session 1, I would start him by passing from a standstill or a target with a hoop for a repetition of the right and left hand. I'd use whole practice, breaking down the passing side. I'd let him try it first, and I break it down into subroutines for him, and show him different subroutines. So for example, the start position, the main push of the ball, also the flick of the wrist, and the finish of the pass. And so I'd make sure I get all the cognitive aspects down, so that from the right hand pass, I get all the cognitive aspects down, so that when he's trying to transfer onto his left hand bilaterally, so that the motor program can be transferred for the bilateral transfer of skills. I'd then, after showing him and teaching him all the different stages, I'd then identify his strengths and weaknesses, allowing him to have another full go of the pass. If the performer catches on and develops quickly to the pass, after doing many repetitions off of his right and left hand, especially his left hand, I'd do some 2-channel passing between me and him off of probably a jog, to allow, and we'd swap channels as well to allow passing off the right and left hand. In my second session, I'd have more 2-channel passing to begin with, and I'd vary the width of the channels. I'd then develop that into 2-on-1 attacking, so I'd have him and a teammate, or him and I, running at a defender with a tackle pad, Which would be an example of mechanical guidance to allow him to feel safe when he's running at them, and it would develop parts of the skill whilst preventing injury and allowing the skill to be grooved. So I have 2-on-1 attacking, and I get him to offload the ball just before he hits the pad. And then towards the end of the session, if it's all going well, to prevent boredom, I might develop it into 3-on-2 attacking, again also with tackle pads to prevent injury and groove the skill properly. So week 3, I might start so I've done the first 2 sessions, and then third. So the second week, so it's the next 2 sessions. I'd probably start off with I start with a fun drill, which is get his team. So I bring the external external inputs back into the situation, which would be his team, and I get them in a circle, passing the ball around the circle, and whoever starts off the pass around the circle has to do a loop and try and beat the ball around to his current position. Then the training sessions for this week, so the 2 in that this week, will consist of 4-channel passing, which I'll vary distances, so I'll vary it from just normal 1, 2, 3, 4 passing to 1 to 3, then 3 back to 2, then 2 to 4. This will vary the distance of the pass and also the hand in which the pass comes off of, so you have to pass with your left and right hand, and I get them to change lanes during it. I then, towards the end of the second session that week, I'd do an uncontested match drill, which would be just open play, but obviously it'd be uncontested, and I may finish with a short game of touch rugby on one of the sessions, because obviously touch rugby will help with the performance pass without bringing in the hard tackles and stuff and etc. Help with his offloads and his vision. And then for the last week, so the last 2 sessions, which would be an hour each, I'd first half an hour of the sessions I'd do drills. For example, the Argentine passing drill, which is where you have 3 players all lined up on either side of you in different channels, and you're in a middle channel. So this would be Dan would be in the middle channel, and he'd get a ball from one side, one person on one side of him. They'd pass it to him, and he wouldn't know where the ball's coming from, so he'd have to react to the situation. They'd pass it to him, then he'd have to offload it to the next player, and then he'd go to the next person in the line, still in the same channel. They'd pass it to him, he goes to the next player, and so on. And he just offloads, it just catches and offloads, and that would develop his ability to catch and offload quickly and do it in a swift movement rather than a catch, then he's got to set up the pass again, then offload. So it'd be a swift catch, offload, or catch, offload, that sort of thing. And then and I might vary the number of players in the middle channel, so I might make it 1 player or 2 players. And then the next drill I'd probably do, or another drill I'd probably do, would be get them into 2s, and I'd get Dan and a friend, or Dan and I, passing to each other, but each of us have a ball, and so we've got to pass and react to the pass coming towards us at almost, in effect, the same time. And so you both be off stronger hand, and then you switch it, both be off weaker hand, so you pass to your left or your right, and so the ball almost goes around in a circle. And I get them to almost vary the distance between themselves at times. And then for the last 2 hour sessions, for the last 30 minutes of each, I'd have a full rugby game. Depending on numbers, I'd have either 7s or just a full game. And that would allow Dan to use, or number 8, to use his all the skills he'd learned in the past weeks in the practical situation, allow him to associate the cognitive aspects of the past that he's learned into his everyday game. I think that's about it.
Thank you.